everyone. What in the world do I have in front of me? You guys are gonna be so mad. So, I ain't scared. I ain't scared of y'all. I'm just gonna tell you. I know I'm an enabler. It's my job. In fact, it's in my title of my job. I'm called an influencer for a reason. Really, I'm not trying to influence anybody. I just love to share, but it is a lot of fun and very rewarding to see people love what you love and love what you share. So, it's rewarding. Okay, so what is this? This is a paint by number for watercolors. Guys, I have been racking my brain to come up with ideas on how we can make our own watercolor paint by numbers. And I have some ideas. And I'm not gonna go through them yet because I'm gonna do a video. But I went looking and I was like, there is nothing out there that's watercolor for this kind of thing. And I was so frustrated. And finally I found these sets. I think there's only like 6 designs, maybe 5 or 6 designs. So the link that I'm gonna provide you in the bottom is actually gonna give you this one and more options under that same link. So you'll have to check those out. But this is the one that appealed to me the most because I don't know, it was just stinking cute. I'm gonna put the picture right here of what it will look like once it has been watercolored. So this kit says it is ready to hang. It is a 12 by 12 size. It is a canvas and it's a gallery canvas. So that means that you can go ahead and continue to paint along the sides, which is what I will do. You will also get 9 watercolors and the paintbrush and a numbered guide. Okay, so let's open this up and I'm gonna show you how this little kit works. This kit is made by Faber-Castell. And you guys know that they've been around for a long, long time and they have fabulous products. So I immediately trusted that name when I saw it and had no real hesitations about purchasing this little kit. But let's talk about what's in here. So we got it taped in. Let me get this tape off here. All right, so here we have our paintbrush and our palette. Now, while I'm opening this stuff up, let me give you a little bit of information about my watercoloring background. So I've been watercoloring for probably 25 years, but I still consider myself to be an amateur. Like I feel like there is so much out there that I love when I see it, and I know it's easily achievable, but I don't trust myself enough to feel confident in it. So therefore, I consider myself an amateur. Well, I started out by doing watercolors on rubber stamped images. So I'd make cards with watercolor scenes. I'd stamp the image in waterproof ink, and then I would fill it in and do watercolor techniques that way. So I love doing that. And I've always loved watercolor. I'm obsessed with it. But it's, for me, like I said, I just don't have the confidence in my skills. So I thought I'd show you a few little things that I've done in the past. So these are just little heart card for Valentine's Day. There was a tutorial on YouTube with this little thing and I just loved it. So I followed the tutorial and made this. And I love the saying on this. It says, "From little seeds grow mighty trees." And I just think that was extra special. So I made that. My granddaughter and I each made one together. So she was working on one while I was working on one. So that's what we did. Then I did a little Jane Davenport, I think it was her style, where I just sketched out a little whimsical house and just did some watercolor techniques and added some white paint to it. So nothing special. This was another watercolor tutorial on YouTube, which was super easy, pen and ink type of stuff. I did this one from a kit from the company Let's Make Art, and Sarah Cray over there is incredible and her instruction is amazing, and they sell the kits and you just go follow along with the tutorial. It's pretty cool. So I had some errors in this one, but I never really felt like it was completed. Then I just did some fun stuff like swatching palettes, drawing them out and just swatching them for fun. So that is the limit to my watercoloring skills. And, if I could just freehand watercolor and feel confident, it would be great. As much as I love it, I like to just do simple projects because that way I don't have to beat myself up, which we should never do. Okay, so let's talk about the contents of this kit. On the instruction guide, all right, it's going to give us names of our colors up here, okay? Then it goes on to say that 7 plus 6 is salmon. So we're going to mix some colors. 8 plus 1 is pear green, 4 plus 9 is lavender, 8 plus 7 is honey, 1 plus 2 is spring. And that way we know how to mix these to get the right, exactly the right color for our palette. Now it's no different than following a paint by number guide, other than the fact that you've got this in your hand and you're going to be painting on this directly. So this is just your reference as to what goes here. So I'll be painting some of this for you and showing you how this works. And this is my first attempt, so you guys know we learn as we go, right? All right, so keep watching. All right, so I've grabbed a few tools and let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what I've got here. This is called a butcher's tray palette, and I cannot remember at this moment where I got this from, probably Amazon. I will link you to it in the description. This one might have come from Let's Make Art, and I have a larger one that may have come from Amazon. So either way, I'm going to link you to both of these in the description. I'm also using my Faber-Castell little watering cups. These are the Click and Go watering cups. They fold flat. Love these, love these. They're so kind of heavy that they don't really get flipped easily. Then I'm using the brush that they gave me with the kit. I'm using the paints they gave me with the kit, so that if you get this kit and you don't have other materials, you can just get this kit and get started. An alternative to the butcher's tray is like a ceramic plate or something, or if you just have one of those little palettes that are designed for painting, those are fabulous. If these dry on here, it's not a big deal because I can reactivate with a little squirt of water. I'm going to use 1 cup for rinsing, 1 cup just to make sure I've got all the paint off my paintbrush before I move on to the next color. I have a spray bottle for just misting the paints with. You can use just a drop of water out of your clean cup. Just drop it in there. But for me, this is a lot easier if I just spritz them. Now, I don't know what the quality of these watercolors is going to be like. So, you know, we're just playing with what we've got. And this one's our lime green right here. Now, the more water you have, the less concentrated your color. So you can get gradients of a color by adding water to it. So the more water we have, the lighter our color is going to get, right? So now we have this darker color here, and I can even add more color if I want to and concentrate that. But the more water I add, the more that I'm going to lighten up what I have here. So the beauty of watercolor is water is a good thing. They're very forgiving, very forgiving. Now I am going to get a dry paper towel because I want to make sure that any excess drippy water comes off my brush. Sometimes I'm going to have small sections and I don't want a lot of water in those little areas. So it's nice to have a paper towel handy to take off excess water off your brush. All right, so let me go in and start painting the number ones. Number ones are going to be the leaves. I can look at my guide over here and see that number 1 is going to be in certain leaves. It has number 1, but it also has a touch of number 9 in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint number 1 on the ones that have 2 colors in that cell, and then I'm going to come back and add a little bit of number 9 in these ones that it requires for detail. What I should have done, and it's hindsight, right? I should have taken a Sharpie and numbered my palette. That way I know which one I'm working with without having to look at this chart every time. And I didn't do that, but you know what? It's okay. When this dries, when the palette dries, I can go back and do that. It'll be fine. All right, I'm just going to show you a little bit about how we're going to do this piece. Now I'm doing wet on dry, which means my canvas is dry, okay? So that is a wet on dry. I've added the green. Now I've added a little more depth up in here and I let it just filter going down through there. The less water you have on your paint, the darker this is gonna be, okay? So I'm trying not to be afraid of getting next to the line. I actually like watercolor for the fact that I can go outside the line and it looks artsy. So in order to get this green here, let me show you in this picture, the greens on these leaves here. I'm going to mix number 8 and number 1 is what it says here on our guide. So 8 and 1 is going to be here. 8 and 1, 8 and 1. So 8 is lemon yellow. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to get it in there, let it sit for a minute. And I'm going to put it over here on my palette. Now, working with tubed paints like Arteza or, I mean, there's tons. Using a different, type of paint would give you a different outcome. All right, so I've got the yellow, and then I need to go in with number 1, which is the green I've been using. Get a little bit more water in here. And I'm just gonna mix these together till I get a color I like. Now that is a little more green than yellow. So let me go back in here and pick up some more yellow and just mix it right here on my palette. Now I am cleaning my brush before going back into the yellow because I don't want to muddy up my yellow. Now I'm going to get this to whatever shade or tint or value I want it to be. And that is what I want right there. I want a really pretty lime green. And let me see if I can get lights up here to show you that. All right. And that is what I'm going to use to come in here. And you notice I'm holding my brush back a little bit. I keep it real loose. And I'm kind of filling in just a little bit. So the ones that have 8 plus 1, I'm going to fill in with our mixed color. Now, the thing I like about watercolors is I can concentrate more to add more depth if I'd like to in certain areas. So I do that just when I'm going along, just for the fun of it. Okay, so this is also an 8 plus 1. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about how this canvas is prepared. Normally, if you were to get a plain canvas, just a 12 by 12 canvas like the one I have in front of me, just a plain one, it is not going to be prepared. It's not going to be prepped for watercolor. In my experience, and it's been a long time since I've done watercolor where I've had to prep the surface, but I had to use something called watercolor ground and prep my surface, then I could watercolor on it. White gesso doesn't have quite the same effect as the watercolor ground. So they apparently have already done that on this canvas, so that has saved us the step, which I personally just love. So you see how loosely I'm going in here. I am not trying to stay in the lines. I am not being perfect about it. I'm just throwing in some color. All right, so I'm going to continue to do this, mixing more as I need to. One more thing I want to mention. Let's just say I'm over here mixing and I don't get the same color as I got the first time. Does it really matter? It does not, because I don't care, because all the greens are not going to be the same tints and values and shades. So even if this mixture is a little different than that mixture, which it really isn't, but even if you get that when you're working, it is okay. It is okay, because all leaves are different colors when the light hits them in a certain way. Okay, now what I want to show you, I was going to time lapse and just paint. Now I'm going to clean off my brush, and we're going to try a wet on wet technique, which is, I'm just going to do one of these flowers here. So what I'm going to do is take a clean paintbrush. I want to make sure all the paint is off this brush, right? Even though it's stained a little bit, as long as I don't have any color coming off on my paper towel, I'm good. I'm going to take a wet paintbrush and I'm going to go ahead and fill in as carefully as I can, or as I want to, I guess I should say. Anywhere I put water is where paint is going to go. So this color here is number 4. Number 4 is purple. So that's going to be this one right here. And then I'm just going to touch into this flower. And you see how it'll automatically start to spread because I already have water in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more concentration in there. And I didn't put a lot of water either. So it depends on how vibrant you want that to be. Let's just go ahead and add that and let it, see how if you add it and it's already got water in it, how it just spreads to wherever you put the water. It doesn't go outside those lines. Now I get water up in here. Wherever I put water is where this is going to expand to. So even though I went over that little area there, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to switch my color. I'm going to wash my brush out. I'm going to wipe it off on the paper towel. And then I'm going to pick up the darker purple. But let me show you something. If this is wet, before I go in and do this dark purple here, I want this to dry. And the reason I want that to dry is I want a little bit of separation. And I'm going to show you what happens. If I go in here and I start putting the darker purple, let me add some more water to that. Okay, if I start adding some purple in here, you see how it automatically took off and went running into the other color? Unless I want that effect, I want to wait. I'm just going to lift it out with a paper towel. See, I can almost remove every bit of that color if I want to. I don't want to, but I was just showing you. Okay, so let me try this again. I'm going to show you one more time. We're going to go back in with that center color. I call this as more like an orchid pink or something, but you know, I'm extra. So let's go back in and put this pink back in there. Since I was showing you how to pull up color if you mess up. Let's just leave it. We don't want to do anything else. Now, if I want a more concentrated color, I'm just going to add more to it. I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I can go over here and do these other ones that are supposed to be the same color. One thing I love about watercolor is I love a messy watercolor look. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but I love it going outside the lines. I love that whole just, I don't know, casual nature of it. If that's such a thing. So I don't care that it's creeping over in here in this little center section. That is fine with me. One thing about watercolors that's totally different than the acrylics we use, they blend. I mean, like, you can blend them easily. So over here, this is drying. And once this dries, I'm going to come back to it and show you how we're going to put in that number 9, like it shows right here in this little section. So number 9 is white. So what they're doing is they're giving us a highlight. Now I'm using my clean water to add more water to my palette. I can always come in here and just spritz it if it starts drying up. I'm going to get the white and I'm just going to try to get some of that water down in there to get it to show up. Now, I'm not sure if it's dry or not. It's fairly dry. What you would do is just come in here and add kind of a little highlight to it. Of course, I had to go ham and add too much highlight to it. If we get too much, what are we going to do? We're going to take a little edge of paper towel and I'm just going to tap it and get it out of there. The paper towel absorbs it just beautifully. In addition to white, instead of using white paint, you can take a wet paintbrush and remove the color from that area. A clean wet paintbrush, and remove it from that area so that you just are preserving the white. And let me go back. I'm going to add a little darkness in here. And we're going to let that set. And then I'm going to show you a little bit more of what I mean by that. Now, I want these to be a little darker So I'm going to add a little more of this lime mixture here, because once it dries, I realize I want more depth than that. So I'm almost like just going to put down 2 layers. The difference between painting 2 layers in watercolor and painting it in acrylic is a major difference. So now let's go back to this flower, this green here. This one's totally dry. I'm going to clean my brush and get some plain water, but I'm also going to take it over to my paper towel and get it fairly dry. I just want the tip to be a little bit wet. Now I want to be careful not to get my hand over here. But what it shows us is this highlight is coming down here. Well, I'm going to get a little bit of white on the tip, and we're going to just add a little highlight right up there. Now I want this to be a little darker, so I'm using a little more concentration of that green, number 8, and I'm gonna just add a little bit of that, preserving my white, making my white a little smaller if I want to. And then I think what I'm going to do when I'm finished with this, I'm going to use the white Sharpie paint pen or my white gel pen, and I'm going to add the white highlights that I want, because I like that look. I like that really crisp pop of white. So that's probably the way I'm going to do it. Let's move on to another color, and I would really love to paint this entire thing on camera, but I know I'm going to want to talk through it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to time lapse it from here on out. You'll be able to see me mixing over here as much as I can. Let me see if I can get all this in the camera. I know I won't be able to finish it all in one session. I'll probably have to come back and do other sessions, but for now, I'm just going to work on it and record. Now, I want to show you, if this starts to dry out, all I have to do is spritz it and it reactivates it. So it's, you know, definitely different than the acrylics we're used to, because that would not be happening. So I can leave my paints to dry on this pan, and whenever I'm ready to work again, even if it's dry, I spritz it and I'm ready to go. So everything I've mixed will be preserved. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the paint off of that, and I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see, this one here. Now that that one has dried. Now I want to add a little more green to this. And this is a concentrated green as it starts to dry. So let's bring a little of this yellow up in here. Okay, and if I add a little water, it's going to tone it down even more. So now these will be kind of the same. A little more yellow, a little more green here. And everything in between I can use as a palette. Okay, so these have dried. The centers of these flowers have dried. I'm going to go in and I'm going to mix the color that I need, which is 7 plus 6. In this case, 7 is orange and 6 is rose red. And that is going to be the color of our flowers. Let me go ahead. I took a little break and I came back, so I'm going to spritz my watercolors again. And I'm going to mix my two colors, my number 7 and my number 6. Let's do it where you can see it a little bit. Put a lot of paint down here. This is not a lot of flowers, but enough that I might need a little bit of paint. Now I'm going to rinse my brush and go into the rose red. Ooh. All right, we're gonna add a little more orange to that. What they've done here in this sample photo is not the same as their paint by number suggestions. I'm actually going by the paint by number suggestions for those of you who've wanted to try a paint by number watercolor. You do not have to do it the way I'm doing it. You do not have to follow the guide for the paint by number portion at all, okay? That is just a guide for those of you who have not watercolored, if you're unfamiliar, if you're uncomfortable with your own color schemes, that kind of thing, if you're not confident. That is when you would want to come in here and follow their options for mixing colors and which ones to use where. Okay, that is not set in stone. That's one thing about the beauty of watercolor or any art, is you can kind of take it and make it your own. So I've mixed the salmon color here with the 7 and the number 6, and I'm going to put it here. I just wanted to let you know that when you see this and it's finished and it doesn't look like the photo, that's why. Because they took creative liberties with their design on their photo, which is great. I mean, I like the fact that they're showing you how to think outside the box. So, you know, I love the combination they've used with the paint by number suggestions. So that is what I'm doing. But you guys, you do it how you want. That is the main thing. That's just a guide. Now I'm going to come back and add some depth to those colors in a minute. Now I love that this is more orange there, more salmon here, more red on this side. In fact, I will probably go back and do a little bit of that when I'm done, changing it up and adding little variations of color. But you guys see how easy it is to just throw caution to the wind. Do your own thing, chicken wing. I live my life doing my own thing. My job here is to advise you as to the things that I have found that work for me, but I am not going to ever tell you there's only one way, unless it comes to talking about clear gesso on your paint by number canvas, and then there's only one way. I know there's a lot of different opinions on that, but just saying. All right, so what I'm doing now is that is orange at the top, right? And I'm going to add a little bit of this more red orange here at the bottom. That's a pink. God, that's gorgeous. And just drop it in so that there is a little more of like a shadow almost where that hot pink comes in. Now I am trying not to get on the hot pink section because I don't want it to get wet and start blending with what I've got going on here. But once it dries a little bit, I'm going to come back and add more of that deeper color right in there. I'll go ahead and do it on this one. Okay, so what I've done is I went ahead and completed this entire project, and you guys, it really did not take long. I mean, my granddaughter was here and she had her watercolors out and was doing some art. And so I figured I would just sit there, we'd watch some TV, and I finished painting this one while we were watching movies together. And I went ahead and I followed the exact paint by number sequences and everything that they had done here. So mine looks different than this because they kind of took liberties and did their own thing here. The only reason I didn't do my own thing is because I wanted to show you what it looks like once you do follow the instructions and you finish the piece. This is what it would look like. So I did go ahead and carry the blue around so that we have a gallery wrapped piece. It's very lightweight and it's a great size. So I didn't tap into my own creativity that much. The only thing I did that wasn't part of the plan was that where the white was supposed to go on petals and on flowers, I just used a white gel pen and added a little white accent. Nothing major, very simple. And I just didn't want to go back, like all these leaves, that little white accent they were telling us to add with number 9. I just did that with a white gel pen. So it's a cute project. It was fun to do, very relaxing. If you love watercolors as much as I love watercolors, then at least we know there's a few kits out there like this. So this would give you a great first project to do. That is it for today, you guys. I appreciate you joining me as always. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up for this video and subscribe to my channel and join me on Patreon and Facebook. And you guys, I will see you back soon.